Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Catholic Citizen, episode 12, where we're covering Governor Cuomo, President Biden's executive orders, and some bishops who are taking a strong stance for life. I can't wait to talk to you here in just 1 minute. Well, friends, again, welcome back to episode 12. Great to have you with us here in the Catholic Citizen. So much to cover. But before we do, we got to pay the bills. So please go to awakencatholic.org/donate. Help us out here at Awaken Catholic. Again, I was talking about my cheap clothes last week that they buy for me. No, they don't buy me anything. I do this because I love the Lord and I love you. And I want to share the truth with love and mercy to a world in desperate need of it. So please help us to do just that here at awakencatholic.org/donate today. Secondly, the new app is here. Nick De La Torre did a fantastic job with a new video promoting it. And on the new app, there's all these fun features, including right now, the show is being live streamed. So technically, we do some edits and we cut out all the mistakes I make, which is about 1,000 for each show that Colleen has to work hard for 5 hours. But you can see all those mistakes live right now on the app if you download it, and you can catch this show being live streamed at the moment. Lastly, Casa Bella Cleaning. There isn't a better cleaning organization here in Northwest Ohio that's going to help you at your home or your office, especially in this COVID-19 world. You need things to be clean. So that means you need to go to Casa Bella Cleaning today to check them out. Not only are they really good at what they do, but they're really good people as well. So check them out again, Casa Bella Cleaning today. All right, let's get to the show. First and foremost, Andrew Cuomo, governor of New York, the same governor that lit up the Empire State Building pink when he was celebrating the fact that he signed laws allowing abortion through all 9 months of pregnancy. This Andrew Cuomo, who was enjoying his own celebrity when he was actually awarded an Emmy from the International Academy of Television Arts for his amazing news conferences and press briefings there in New York. That same Andrew Cuomo, just yesterday, it was released by the Attorney General, Letitia James, out of New York, said that the State Department of Health underreported COVID-19 deaths in nursing homes by as much as 50%. Now, the report holds New York Governor Andrew Cuomo's feet to the fire for his handling of the COVID-19 pandemic, because in the early months of 2020, he directed nursing homes in the Empire State to accept patients who had or were suspected of having COVID-19. This was directly from the governor's desk. He told nursing homes to accept patients with COVID-19, and it led to the deaths of hundreds of patients, elderly patients in these nursing homes, the state's most vulnerable populations. But yet he went around accepting nominations and awards because of the way that he was handling the COVID-19 pandemic. It's time, Governor Cuomo, it's time that you rescind the award, apologize, and clean up some of the mess that you've made in New York, the state of New York. Look, Andrew Cuomo's grandfather actually was a strong Catholic, and it just shows how quickly that the faith can die if we don't pass it on to our children. Again, the governor right now, lighting up the Empire State Building, supporting abortion, quote unquote, rights or whatever it may be. Secondly, though, continuing on Cuomo, it's just absolutely amazing to me. And again, folks, this is Catholic news from my biased perspective, okay? So you don't have to agree with everything I'm saying here, but this is just kind of interesting to me a little bit. So the pandemic, obviously, that we've taken seriously, we've talked about, having friends who've been affected by this and everything of that nature. You had a few Democratic governors and mayors, in fact, that were very strict on the lockdowns. A lot of people would say way too strict on the lockdowns. But you had Governor Cuomo, for example. You had Governor Gavin Newsom out in California, Gretchen Whitmer up in Michigan. Extreme lockdown measures. Now, President Biden is elected. He wins the nomination, and then he is sworn in as the next president of the United States. And suddenly, all these states and cities where these Democratic governors and mayors were in control, suddenly now are opening up the economy, saying that we must open up the economy. In fact, on January 11th, Governor Cuomo said this: "We simply cannot stay closed until the vaccine hits critical mass. The cost is too high. We will have nothing left to open. We must reopen the economy. We must do it smartly and safely." Does that sound familiar to you? Maybe something that other governors have been saying since back in May when we flattened the curves. Have we flattened the curve yet? I just don't know. Anyway, nonetheless, so Governor Cuomo came out and said we must open the economy on January 11th. January 14th, Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot said she wants our bars and restaurants open. Then January 18th, Mayor Brandon Scott of Baltimore announced bars and eateries can, in fact, reopen. Then in Washington, D.C., 2 days after the inauguration, Mayor Muriel Bowser said that she would start to roll back COVID-19 restrictions, including on indoor dining. Michigan Governor Whitmer, again, January 22nd, 2 days after the inauguration, bars and indoor dining can open. California Governor Gavin Newsom, 5 days after the inauguration, lifts the statewide stay-at-home order. Wow, incredible. President Biden takes office and suddenly COVID-19, now we don't have to worry about it, that we can now open up the economy once again. It's just amazing. Now, this is despite the fact that President Biden, for all these months leading up into the election said, President Trump doesn't have this under control. And then he takes office. And what does he say in one of his first media press conferences? He's like, look, there's nothing we can do in these few months to get them under control. Despite the fact that he just said that, despite the fact that there's new variants coming out that the media is harping on over and over again, why are these Democratic governors now saying, hey, we got to open up the economy or we're going to have nothing left? Why all around the inauguration? Why now? Why do we have to open up the economy? Folks, can maybe politics play a little part in the way that we've been approaching COVID-19? Do you think just a little bit? The fact that now we have a new president and suddenly these Democratic governors and states are opening up their economies. Just interesting to me. I don't know. Maybe it's interesting to you. Maybe not. All right. President Biden. Now, look, he called President Trump because of his executive orders. Although President Trump, by the end of his presidency, was on the same pace basically as Obama and George W. Bush. I think he was actually even less than Obama, maybe a little bit more than George W. Bush. He called him a dictator because of all the executive orders that he was sending out there. So that's President Biden calling President Trump a dictator. President Biden has signed 40 executive orders in 9 days. This is unprecedented, okay? President Trump, for example, 4 within his first 5 days of office. Barack Obama, 5 for his first couple weeks in office. 0 for George W. Bush. It was 30 executive orders in the first 5 days for President Biden. Now it's up to 40 in the first 9 days. So President Biden, are you a dictator? One of the press conference people thankfully asked the White House press secretary and said, well, does this just mean that President Biden's a nice dictator? Let me spend a little bit of time on that point here. Because I've heard, even in my office there at the Pastoral Center, I've heard other people talking about it. I heard people talking about it before the election. They said, President Biden, he's just nice. And things are just returning back to normal a little bit. Folks, what can I say here? It's not normal to sign 40 executive orders in 9 days. And just because people are maybe nice or seemingly a little bit nice doesn't mean that's good for the country. Now, look, when I'm choosing a president or someone who's representing me in office, I want someone who's nice, and I want them to have nice policies. Now, secondly, if I can't get someone who's nice with nice policies, I'll take someone who's a little bit crude and a little bit not so nice, as long as they have nice policies. It's not my preference, but I'll take it. Rather than someone who's nice with bad policies, or with, quite frankly, some evil policies. And yes, I use that word, understanding the gravity that carries with it, evil policies. Because if you're a Catholic and you're looking at the Biden administration, you can, with me, like with the USCCB, say, you know what, some of these executive orders that he's made, such as on immigration, yeah, praise God, that's good. Thank you so much for doing that. But some of the other things that he's putting out there, guys, quite frankly, it's quite dangerous. So let's look at some of these things. We covered last week a little bit about the transgender executive order that he issued, allowing men into women's restrooms, men into women's sports, biological men. But this has far-reaching impacts, including even on the military, because he also signed one on the military as well. And you can look it up yourself. The Federalist actually has an article on this. But basically, the Army is sending out these memos to female soldiers telling them that they must accept naked men in their showers. Like, boom. Like, that's the directive that you're getting from the President of the United States. Look, I love our military. We need to support our military, and our military should be focused on protecting our nation. It should not be some type of experiment where now not only are we allowing biological males to shower with the biological females and telling the females, hey, just get used to it, okay, because this is coming from the president, but we're also going to have to pay for any individual who's struggling with gender dysphoria to transition from one sex to the next. You and I, we're paying for that in their healthcare plans because President Biden has decreed so by executive fiat. Number two, on some of these health orders that President Biden, again, this hasn't been reported widely in the media, maybe because it might look President Biden look bad a little bit, but for some reason he's put a pause on President Trump's slash of insulin prices, including insulin and epinephrine. Okay, so President Trump slashed by executive order some of these drug prices, and Biden said, no, can't do that. We have to review this policy. What do you have to review it for? He's providing drugs cheaper to people who need it. And yet we've put a pause on that. Now on the issue of abortion, the White House announced on Thursday that it was signing an executive order reversing or rescinding the Mexico City policy. The President Trump administration actually expanded this beyond the millions of dollars that it used to include billions of dollars that go globally across the world. Now, this particular policy, it keeps our taxpayer dollars, again, from funding any organizations out there that promote or actually procure abortions for people overseas. So if you work for an organization that you're involved in healthcare for people, but you're also offering abortion to people, you don't get our funds from the United States of America. That's something very consistent with the Hyde Amendment here in the United States. And it's just something that President Reagan thought was right when he first instituted it. And then it's been flip-flopped back and forth from every Democratic president to Republican president. So basically what this means is President Biden is sending billions of your taxpayer dollars overseas, which will now help promote and procure abortions for people overseas. Look, folks, we already have 42 million abortions around the globe every single year. My fellow Catholics, my fellow Christians, fellow people of goodwill, can we wake up to the reality that, yes, the president does make a huge impact on this issue of abortion? And if you voted for President Biden, seriously, I invite you to consider, do you have to go to confession? Okay? Seriously, 100%. The man is promoting abortion now overseas. And he said that he wants to codify Roe v. Wade. This is the preeminent issue of life which our church has asked us to focus on. Pope Francis has called it the cornerstone of the common good. John Paul II said we must fight this with maximum determination. But if you support a president who supports abortion through all 9 months of pregnancy, that is a moral decision that you've made to do that, okay? It's just something that you have to think about because now abortion policies are being pushed across this globe. Now, Nancy Pelosi, another prominent Catholic in public life, has just appeared recently on a podcast with Hillary Clinton. Interestingly enough, she was after pro-lifers, saying that if you support pro-life, these one-issue voters, that they vote on this issue, that they are sacrificing democracy. Well, we had a peaceful transition of power. I don't know how we sacrifice democracy by supporting the pro-life cause. Oh, mind you, to have a democracy, you have to have citizens in the first place, which we're killing off through abortion. But she also said that if you oppose abortion, you should support contraception, and you're hypocrites if you don't have large families. Okay. Oh, Nancy, where do I begin? Let's just start with this idea of you must support contraception, as if you have to support contraception to tell people that killing a baby is wrong. Okay, that doesn't make sense whatsoever. But you hear these tired old arguments from the pro-choice side a lot, when it comes to this issue of abortion. Look, you have to adopt everyone out of foster care, otherwise you can't be against abortion. That doesn't make any sense. Put any other evil into that category. You have to adopt everybody out of foster care, otherwise you can't oppose slavery. No, slavery is wrong, okay? You can just oppose a moral evil, and you don't have to agree with everybody else on every other single issue. Should we be more involved in taking care of kids out of foster care? 100% I'm with you. But that's not a prerequisite to be able to tell others that killing is wrong. Okay, secondly, if you don't have large families. Nancy, again, here, it's a prerequisite to have to agree with you. There was also this video by the poet laureate who was lauded at President Biden's inauguration. It was a beautiful poem. I agree that she read there, but then she also did a pro-abortion poem for Now This, and she's being lauded by people like Father James Martin and others for what she did and stuff. And it's just like, my goodness. If you actually listen to the logic of these people's arguments, they're just silly, and they try to appeal to people's emotion, such as the issue or case of rape as to why we should have abortion. I invite you to go to monicakelsey.com. I invite you to go to Radiance Life Foundation to answer some of those questions, and we'll review some of those on Catholic Citizen. We've talked about them before, but look, none of these situations justify the killing of another human being. Nonetheless, thankfully, this is what I wanted to cover, Archbishop Aquila, some bishops are stepping up. So Archbishop Cordileone from San Francisco had some strong words for Nancy Pelosi concerning some of the things that she said. Oh, by the way, on the podcast, Hillary Clinton and Nancy Pelosi said, we're doing this for future generations, right? And for our children to live to their God-given potential, all children. Except, of course, those million kids that are killed in the womb every single year because of policies that you support and fight for. Absolutely unbelievable. But thankfully, some bishops are stepping up. Archbishop Naumann of the Pro-Life Respect Life Committee has put up some strong statements. I think they're still a little too... well, let me just say, I don't think they capture the gravity of the moment, if you will. But at least he's putting some statements out there. I think there was a statement, or there was a homily, though, that captures the gravity of the moment, and it came from Archbishop Aquila. This is what he said. We must respect life at the beginning and the end. If we don't respect life in the beginning and the end, we will not respect life in between. Okay, so not so strong, but that's a start. But this is what he says. This is where I think he gets good. We must never take the position of a Pelosi or Biden on abortion. They give scandal to the church by what they do, because what they do is wrong, and we must be clear about that. One day they will die and stand before the judgment of God. Our task is to urgently pray for the conversion of heart. It's not a political issue. It's an issue of salvation, an issue of integrity, and an issue of living the gospel and being a faithful follower of Jesus Christ. You cannot pick and choose what you want to follow. Okay, it's a couple things. One, Archbishop, it is a political issue, okay? It's a spiritual issue, it's a moral issue, and then it's a political issue, because we don't want politically this to be deemed in law appropriate. However, with that being said, what he's trying to point Catholics to is, first and foremost, this is a spiritual reality, a spiritual battle which we're facing. And unless these people who support abortion policies repent of their beliefs, they're going to stand before the judgment seat of God. And they're going to go to hell, period. Okay, now I'm not God. I can't tell you who's going to hell or who's going to heaven, but I can tell you, if you're walking towards a cliff, that you're probably going to fall off that cliff unless you stop. Okay, if you're driving a car and you're going 70 miles an hour and you're approaching the cliff, I can yell out and say, look, you're going to go off the cliff. Same thing here. If you support the killing of innocent human beings, I'm not going to be the one who sends you to hell. I'm not going to be the one to tell God to send you to hell. But you're driving yourself right there. Okay, so Archbishop Aquila calls this out. And he says, look, we have as Catholics to pray for President Biden, to pray for Nancy Pelosi. They're not, at the end of the day, our enemies. They're our brothers and sisters in the faith. They've been baptized in the name of the Father and Son and the Holy Spirit. But their eternal salvation is at stake. That's what we're fighting for. We're fighting for souls here, people. There's a meme out the other day. He said, a priest was before President Biden. He said, do you reject Satan and all his works? And President Biden responds, well, privately or publicly? Because with all these issues, he says, well, privately, I'm pro-life, I'm Catholic, but publicly, I'm not going to support policies. It has nothing to do with forcing your religion on anybody else. It has to do with common sense. It has to do with human life. It has to do with the human right to actually live. Otherwise, we can't claim the human person has any other rights. All right, lastly, I want to leave you with the words of Father Joseph Ratzinger from 1969. You might know Father Ratzinger better as Pope Benedict XVI. But all the way back in 1969, Father Ratzinger prophesied a few things on German radio, and this is what he said, some of what he said. The future of the church, once again as always, will be reshaped by saints, by men, that is, whose minds probe deeper than the slogans of the day. Those who, and when he says by men, he means humankind, by men whose minds probe deeper than the slogans of the day, who see more than others see because their lives embrace a wider reality. Friends, here at the Catholic Citizen, we are embracing a wider reality. The truth of God's love, his mercy, and the beautiful church that he's given us. So we go beyond the equal signs. We go beyond the slogans like my body, my choice. We go beyond just simple acronyms, and we seek the truth. We seek the wider reality of Jesus Christ. The wider reality which spread his arms out on the cross for each one of us to show us the depth, the height, the breadth, and the length of God's love. And I want you to know, whether you're a Democrat, Republican, conservative, or liberal today, that God loves you, and there isn't anything you can do about that. But my friends, he's given you a purpose and mission, and that is to seek and to know his truth, so that others may come to know and love his truth as well. And here's some of the truth that God established on earth. We are made in his image and likeness. Male and female, he created us. And he created us to give life, to create life in the family, to have children. And those two issues right now, they're under attack by this current administration and by a president who claims the Catholic faith as his own. Friends, let us not confuse politics and these politicians who are leading us, quite frankly, astray. Let us follow the one true shepherd who's very clear about what love is, about what truth is. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week on The Catholic Citizen. Take care.
This show and all media on Awaken Catholic is made possible by the Awaken Nation and the Hallow app. The Awaken Nation is a community of people like you who support all things Awaken for as cheap as a cup of coffee a week and get access to exclusive content. Learn more by visiting awakencatholic.org/donate. Hallow is the only audio-guided Catholic prayer app focused on contemplative prayer and traditional Catholic meditation such as Lectio Divina, Daily Examen, and the Rosary. We here at Awaken all use Hallow every day and love it. To learn more or give it a try, visit hallow.app/awaken.